Welcome, LifeBlood. This is George G, and the time is right. Welcome to today's guest, strong and powerful, Jeremy Commisso. Jeremy, are you ready to do this?
Absolutely, George, man. I've been looking forward to it.
Excited to have you on. Jeremy is the owner and CEO of NurseFirst Travel Agency. He's working to champion the travel nurse industry by promoting genuine partnerships and advocacy. Jeremy, tell us a little bit about your personal life, some more about your work, and why you do what you do.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So, first and foremost, I'm a father of a soon-to-be 2-year-old daughter, which is exciting in all of its own. She's absolutely great. And then I'm also engaged to be married, fall of next year, 2023. So a lot of exciting things going on in the personal life. And kind of what got me to this point in what it is I do, you see an issue and you set out to solve it. Ignorance was certainly bliss. I think if I knew what I didn't know going into it, I probably would not be on this podcast with you. But yeah, so basically, again, founder and CEO of NurseFirst Travel Agency. And much like you said, our mission is to turn staffing opportunities into amazing employment experiences, both for travel nurses and other healthcare professionals, as well as hospitals and other healthcare facilities that we're placing these travel healthcare professionals at to fill their staffing needs, with really just the vision of being quite simply to make staffing and employment better.
Nice. Well, I appreciate that. So I've been hearing for years that there aren't enough nurses. I think I've literally heard that for 30 years. So I don't know if that's true or not. Can you kind of give me a breakdown of what that looks like?
Absolutely. So I don't know if they've even published the latest statistics since COVID, but I know previously in like 2019 or 2020, pre-COVID, they were talking about a 1 million RN shortage by 2026. I think if nothing else, that's at least been expedited, for multiple reasons. Originally it was due to, the baby boomer generation, both getting out of the workforce and needing more care, as well as, there's really a giant push, even pre-COVID, for advanced practice nursing. So, the days of our parents and grandparents and our aunts and uncles becoming an RN and staying as a bedside RN for, 30 or 40 years before they retire, that's largely a thing of the past, it seems. The big push is you go get your nurse practitioner, you become a nurse anesthetist, or any of these other avenues, whether it be management, education, et cetera. And, then you throw in COVID and, the great, resignation, the burnout that came along with it, especially with healthcare professionals that were on the front line. And it's really just, again, kind of exacerbated any pain points that they were having going into COVID. And it has certainly, like you said, just increased the need for healthcare professionals to not only love what they do and who they're working for while taking care of the patients, but, really kind of reigniting, so to say, that passion that got them into the healthcare field itself.
It's fascinating. Well, I don't know if the term is fascinating or not, but it's understandable why you could get burned out in healthcare, and certainly being a nurse. I just thinking about it, like, my goodness, all the different challenges that people face. How often do people go from being that bedside RN to being a traveling nurse?
Yeah, I mean, it's, especially during COVID, it's become, publicly, it's been in the public spotlight here on news. But even pre-COVID, it was a rapidly growing industry. I believe pre-COVID, we were like a $15 billion industry. And I think year over year, there was a 20% growth over the last couple of years, if I'm not mistaken, between, just in our industry, both as far as people joining and wanting to become a travel nurse, as well as, the revenue that came because of the different increased rates that hospitals were offering, which also, was a big, attractive factor that, really led nurses to want to go do this. So, it's one of those things. Again, it's just where we're seeing bedside nurses go to travel nursing. It's almost the same dynamic as to why a lot of them are going into advanced practice of some sort. These guys were, they want a change of pace. They want to see the world, or at least see the country, and really get to embrace and immerse themselves into a culture of wherever they're going to be. I always said when I was traveling, everywhere is great for 1 week at a time, but when you're there for 3 months, which is what these traditional contracts are, you get to really experience the place, and you get to experience it as a local to some regard, while making fantastic money, oftentimes 2, 3, 4+ times as much as what they made as a staff nurse. But they have the luxury of going from California and then 3 months later going to New Hampshire or wherever they would like to go across the country. And there's just a lot of perks that come with it. There's certainly some drawbacks, where I think one of the things a lot of people maybe talk about a little bit is, oh, well, there's not a big job security, or your contract can just get canceled. That's true, but that's really where the agency makes their money, right? It's, you don't pay us for what we do always, it's you pay us for what we can do, and that's kind of where we make our cut. Really being that advocate for our healthcare professionals and ensuring that it is something that is sustainable, something that is absolutely and thoroughly enjoyable, and something that they really feel like they're not in it alone is really where we come into play.
Yeah, that certainly does make sense. I was just sort of putting myself in the shoes of somebody who would be interested in travel nursing, and what would I be concerned with? Certainly the certainty of, well, I don't want to get there and then we don't like each other, so that I'm out of a job. If I don't have the right procedures in place or the systems, it won't be sustainable because I'll just feel like I'm living out of a suitcase. And
Yep.
while it's sort of there's ways that you can probably put systems around moving from place to place and really acclimating quickly. So all that makes a ton of sense. I didn't realize that the compensation was so much higher.
Yeah. I mean, really just to kind of get in a high level overview of the flow of money, it's, basically the hospital is in a crisis of some regard, right? If you don't have the patients, you can't staff the beds. If you can't staff the beds, you can't make the revenue off of the patients, et cetera. And so, hospitals will pay, a premium. Pre-COVID, it's roughly $70, $80 an hour for these travel nurses. They pay that to the agency for every hour that this ER nurse goes and works at their facility. It may sound like a lot, but it's really not much more than what they pay for their employees, because they're $70 or $80 an hour. They pay the healthcare staffing agency like nursefirst. That's no strings attached. There's no benefits, nothing. That's all inclusive. It's on the staffing agency to provide the benefits, the salary taxes, any housing or living and meals and incidental stipends that may come along with it, travel reimbursements, and all of that. That's really all coming from us. So, I believe at one point I saw, if a nurse is making $35 an hour at a hospital, when you include PTO benefits, both medical, dental, and otherwise, 401k, salary taxes, et cetera, it's much like the hospital's paying $60 to $65 an hour for that employee. So when you put it in that context, it's, it doesn't seem like much more, but by being a transient worker and being eligible in the instances that they are eligible for, tax exempt stipends for, housing reimbursement, travel reimbursement, et cetera, that's really where they get to come out ahead. And again, at the very least, even if you're making the exact same amount, but you get to go anywhere in the country that you want to go to, for multiple different reasons, whether it be to figure out where you want to live and where you want to actually plant roots, or just to simply say, look, I want to escape all hospital politics and, not have to worry about time off. I can just take time off in between assignments and, just get a really experience and, grow my craft, so to say, by seeing how multiple reputable hospitals across the country do the same general things.
I think that makes a ton of sense. I've certainly worked in large organizations and am aware that politics are a reality when that does happen.
Sure.
And also, what a cool opportunity to be able to go and check out North Carolina or Scottsdale, Arizona, or what XYZ place, and to figure out, is this a place that I can really see myself living? So in terms of what y'all are doing to make that process easier, how is what you're doing different?
Yeah, so really, and it's going to sound too simple, and there's no way that this could be it, right? But that's the idea. It's really just doing the right thing. At Nurse First, we've just tweaked the norms of our industry intentionally to be some sort of a disruptor. And I guess the little bit higher level overview of it that kind of led us to this point was, I always said, as a travel nurse, I personally experienced that it was an agency versus nurse, not agency with nurse industry culture. And, being on this side, I get it. I can see how it's easy to fall into that. But I think, it's what you prioritize gets done, what you measure gets done, and what you incentivize gets done. Correct. So for us, we aren't in it to make as much money as we can per traveler, per contract. Our whole goal when we first started this company, or when I first started the company, was to make money by volume and growth of the movement, which is Nurse First. And you do that by, not giving the nurse, if you get $75 an hour from the hospital, you don't pay the nurse $75 an hour, but you pay them what is fair. We don't negotiate our rates because we give the best that we can possibly give. We always quote our pay packages at a 21.5% gross profit margin, which usually leads to about a 10% net margin. We believe that's extremely fair because nurses shouldn't have to negotiate for fair compensation where the agency doesn't make a dime off of them if they don't work for you anyways. And worst comes to worst, even if you do maybe negotiate a 30% gross margin contract, we're making that much more money, which is great. But they go and they talk to other travel nurses at the hospital and quickly doesn't learn they're being underpaid in comparison to this person. And not only are you going to lose that travel nurse, you're going to have to swim upstream to basically make up for that person, right? Because you're not only having to get one more person to just sustain, now you're also fighting them talking poorly about you. That's not what we want. At Nurse First, we're not always the highest paying, but we are always extremely competitive in our pay packages, but that's just one piece. We have contracts with thousands of hospitals across the country, so we have the opportunities that they would be interested in. But really, our secret sauce is the experience that we are committed to providing these travel nurses. Oftentimes, and I think, again, COVID exacerbated this for almost every profession, not just Nurse First. And it's not even intentional by employers, but it's, it just happened. People don't quit jobs oftentimes because of the job. They probably just would never have taken the job if that were the case. They quit it because of leadership, management, and feeling undervalued. Well, at Nurse First, we commit to basically the exact opposite. We want them to feel valued. At Nurse First, our corporate hierarchy of importance, so to say, is not the traditional shareholder customer, but then often at the detriment to the employee. For us, it is the employee, which is oftentimes our internal employee, because if you treat them well, they're going to really want to represent proudly the name on the front of the jersey, not the back. And if they do that, they then do everything they can to make sure that these travel nurses that are working with us have as enjoyable of an experience as they can. Because really, especially for our traveler advocates, that is something that, it's kind of their gig economy, so to say, right? The best way to grow their book of business is by referrals. They don't have to sell someone on us because someone already sold them and they trust that person more than what they trust the traveler advocate because they're just a sales guy. Well, you can't pay people to want to send people to you. Of course, you can have referral bonuses and help incentivize and thank them for doing so. But we want people to genuinely want to tell everybody there is about us in a positive way. And that takes effort. It's not work. Work, speaks to something that has to be difficult. It's effort. It just takes effort. And that's where our commitment to providing them with the greatest experience, the greatest employment experience that we can really comes in. And then also for the hospitals, right? We want to have we want to provide a great experience for these hospitals with the quality of people we actually, put in their hospitals. That allows us to gain and earn more business with them down the road. It allows us to place more travelers in these places and get quicker offers when, offers come and go and jobs open and close by the day. That's what we're really committed to, is never sacrificing quality over anything, and always focusing on the experience of our customers, which are the healthcare facilities and the travel nurses.
I love it. That makes a ton of sense. How many hospitals are there in the United States? Is that a knowable question?
Give or take a few thousand, between 15,000 and so. I think there's about 15,000 hospitals across the country. So there's tons of places to go.
And if I were a nurse, would I have the opportunity to, like, there's constant openings for travel nurses?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, right now we have thousands of openings on our job board as it is. And we still probably only have about 25 contracts with about 25% of the hospitals in the country. So, there are constant opportunities. And one thing we always tell travel nurses is, hey, just because you don't see that we have an opening at a hospital you'd be interested in, even if we don't have the contract with the hospital, the quickest, best, most effective way to earn a contract with the hospital is immediately say, hey, we know you have an ER opening. Here's an ER nurse. They're super qualified. Would love to come to your hospital. Can we place them there? And let this kind of, be what allows us to have this contract with you moving forward. So opportunities are absolutely plentiful. And, as long as they're licensed or willing to get licensed in the state of their interest, and they are qualified to work at the hospital and at that in that department, by all means, absolutely.
Nice. Well, Jeremy, the people are ready for that difference-making tip. What do you have for them?
Oh man, so I thought on this, and I really have two, if that's okay. The first is kind of what I hit on a little while ago. One of my Jeremyisms, a lot of our employees like to say, that I have is credibility is directly tied to consistency. And at Nurse First, there's nothing we do that is absolutely earth-shattering, right? We're not curing COVID. We're not the best thing to medicine since penicillin, but what we do is extremely simple. However, we are absolutely consistent in what we do. I believe that, mission, vision, core values are just words unless they are lived out, and they are truly the guiding light for every action and decision that is made throughout every single day. If you deviate so much as one time, you can never earn the right to say this is who we are. No, that's just who you are when it's convenient. So credibility being directly tied to consistency, I think, is one. And then the other is, kind of how we operate on an even deeper level, which is, another Jeremyism they say I have is the easiest way to instill trust into someone by not just providing them with the information that they didn't even ask for, but by providing them with information they didn't even know they needed to know. This is kind of the difference between answering a question for someone so they know the answer, or helping them understand so they can really, have that deep understanding of what it is they're doing and how they're affecting whoever it is affecting, or even why we're not going to give them the solution that they were hoping for. Again, these are all professionals. These are partners with us. That's how we view it. It's us with them, not us first them. We want our internal staff, our healthcare professionals, and the hospitals to all understand what goes into everything. So again, instill genuine trust into people, not by, just paying for it or, begging them for it, by wanting them to be trusting us, wanting them and, giving them every reason to trust us by showing, hey, we go above and beyond to truly, help you understand. So there are no secrets. We don't want secrets. And those are a couple things.
Well, I think that is great stuff. That definitely gets it. Come on. Credibility is tied to consistency. I think that is excellent right there. And the easiest way to provide and instill trust is to deliver on what you say, but also give people the information that they didn't even realize that they needed to know. Love it.
Sure.
Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people learn more about you? How can they engage with you and Nurse First Travel Agency?
Yeah, George, I appreciate it, man. but yeah, I think a few different places is obviously on Facebook, where you can follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Jeremy Commisso, J Commisso 419 is my IG handle. Nurse First, we're also Nurse First Travel Agency, is on Facebook, is on LinkedIn, Instagram, our website. We are constantly putting out a bunch of material in form of blogs, other social media postings to really be a thought leader for a lot of people interested in our industry.
Excellent. And what is the website address?
It is nursefirsttravel.com. First is the number 1 ST. So nurse number 1 ST, TRAVEL.com.
Excellent. Well, if you enjoyed this much as I did, show Jeremy your appreciation and share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas, or somebody who happens to be in the healthcare nursing profession. Go to nursefirsttravel.com. It's NURSE, the letter 1, ST, travel.com. Find Jeremy on social media. I'll list all those in the notes of the show. Thanks again, Jeremy.
You bet, George. Thanks for having me.
And until next time, keep fighting the good fight. We are all in this together.